Dominique, you had I think, one of the greats, Kerry Washington, praising your portrayal of Deborah Johnson. She said your performance was glorious, girl. How does that feel?
It's definitely an honor. I can't say that it's not. You know, a lot of times we like to remove ourselves and say, I don't care what people think, but we definitely put our hearts and souls into this project.
I want to share something with you. Like the masses, I was in awe when I first laid eyes on all the things you are. I heard that speech. I knew we'd make noise. I just thought it'd be in the streets.
We knew the importance of us telling our own stories and how much weight it was, and the fact that the family was involved. So I'm excited, one, that Kerry Washington would say that. Excited too that the family would feel like we represented them well. So
that being said, Shaka, talk to us a little bit about how it was having Fred Hampton's family involved in this project.
It was a blessing, you know. It was always challenging for us to figure out a way to, you know, honor the historical record, highlight the things that Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Akua and Nigeria thought were important. And of always, I mean, even before we made contact with them, it was important to us to just make sure that we honored the legacy of the people in the film. Yeah. But you know, it was incredibly rewarding to just have them be able to chime in about, you know, potential pitfalls that we could stumble into and mistakes we could make, things that we might find or think were innocuous that, you know, are not at all. And so we were lucky that they took that ride with us. And I know it was sometimes difficult for them as well. The goal was always to find points of interest between, you know, myself, the producers, the studio, and Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Akua Nigeria. And ultimately, you know, we were able to do that, and they still speak with us. They still, you know, we talk to them like all the time, you know. So that's a good sign, you know.
Yeah. From my research, it definitely seems like perfect timing played a part in this, because I've seen articles on the fact that they tried something similar before, but for some reason this was just the perfect fit or the perfect way to tell his story. In a recent interview, Dominique, you mentioned that taking on the role of Deborah Johnson, which is Fred Hampton's partner, you realized what type of woman you wanted to be. Can you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think just coming from Brooklyn, from East New York, and even navigating this industry as a woman, you start picking up the habits that you have to be on guard all the time. You know, you have to defend yourself. And I remember we went to go speak to the family before we went filming, and Mama Akua said the Panthers were very disciplined. They didn't speak out of turn, and there was some things that she wouldn't say to Chairman Fred that we were saying in the movie. And she's so fiery. She says, whatever's on my, curse you out like this. You know what I mean? And I was just like, how could she feel that way about these little lines? Like, this is not even big in my own mind. And as I watched Daniel take up space and learned more about Chairman Fred, I said, oh, he inspired people to trust him. And when you trust people, you don't have to be on guard and you don't have to be defensive. And I learned with my cast and my crew and with Shaka that I don't have to be defensive. Wow. And that there's always somebody that's going to be having my back and advocating for me. And I don't have to do it in the same ways that I've done it before. I can receive love and I can receive support. So then it just influenced how I wanted to move in the world when I got back home to Brooklyn.
Wow, that gives me chills. I feel like for you, listening to all your interviews, I know probably for all of you, but specifically for you, Dominique, this was a spiritual experience for you, definitely. And it definitely grew you in ways that you just didn't even imagine.
Yeah, I feel like it's so interesting because I call it like the boys club, but yeah. I really felt that I was on a threshold of womanhood and the idea, concept of, I didn't know what it was, but I felt like I was teetering some kind of line. And this embodying Mama Akua, embodying the spirit of Deborah Johnson and the love that she shared with Chairman Fred allowed me to cross over that threshold, especially with having a partner like Daniel, who I think his superpower is he's able to see people for who they are and where they're at, and he's able to remove his ego and meet people where they are. And that's a big deal. And so he knows how to care about people no matter if I'm playing his partner or just in general, the people around him.
And shout out to Daniel for that Golden Globe nomination.
Yeah, holla.
Shaka, you've been working on this film based off of my research from 2016. It's been a long journey for you. How do you feel like you've changed? How do you feel like this experience has grown you?
It's tough to say because, you know, like the last 4 years of my life with the film and just other life stuff has been, I feel like I've lived like a good solid 3 lives. You know, there's also the pandemic life.
Right.
You know, which is another life, you know? So it's tough to say. I know it has changed me in a million ways, probably some for the better, probably some for the worse. But yeah, I'm definitely a completely different person than I was when I started making this movie.
How much of this film is accurate? I know it's history, so you can't get every detail right, but if you can just let viewers know how much is accurate.
I mean, it's tough to quantify, you know?
Yeah.
I think certainly the ideas put forward by Fred Hampton, that we tried to use his words as often as possible, you know, and we started, I think there's only one speech that we have where his words are, you know, I mean, and they're not even fully altered. They're just like kind of like minor tweaks. And that was because we didn't have the life rights until the second week of filming.
Wow.
When Fred Hampton Jr. and Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and Kaluuya Jerry came on board as cultural consultants. So we tried to use his words as often as possible. There were some names of characters that had to be changed. There's some characters that are invented. You know, for example, the character of Judy Harmon, played by Dominique Thorne, is a hybrid of, you know, different women who were in the Panthers, just because the Illinois chapter, as far as we knew, didn't have any women in the security cadre. And this is a movie that focuses on the security cadre, and we thought it was important to have some strong women in the film besides Dominique Fishback. So we created that character. But there's some characters who are based on, you know, real characters. Jake Winters was a real person. Obviously, Bobby Rush was a real person. You know, Mark Clark obviously was a real person, you know, who was also assassinated, you know, along with Chairman Fred on December 4th. So, and William O'Neill obviously is a real person, where Mitchell is. So it's a, I can't quantify it. I can't be like 60-40 or 70-30. I know that our first draft was like 99% true.
Wow.
It was also like 250 pages, you know? So when you have to get this to a makeable place, you start having to make some changes and sacrifices. But it's true enough that people who lived through this, the ones that I've spoken to, are like, yeah, this isn't all the way true. Like, yeah, it didn't happen that way, but yeah, that happened, or this happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think, right, the atrocity of it is the truth, and that's like one of the biggest things that's important, that they murdered him in bed like that, that they shot up the apartment 99 times, right? Like,
and they shot through the walls like that. Like, I will say that when it came to the assassination, we wanted to make it very clear that it was an assassination and not, you know, killing. It was very politically motivated, and there was clear intent. And so for that reason, that was one of the scenes where we wanted to be very precise with showing the intent. That was key.
I also think, like, we know their ages, but we don't really know. Like, you know, we don't let it resonate, the fact that they were 19, 20, 21.
I think that's what hit me the most. I mean, after I watched the film, of course, I went down a rabbit hole trying to learn everything about Fred Hampton. And the fact that he was 21 saying the words that he was saying, or even having the courage to be as bold and willing to lose his life for this revolution, but it makes sense too at the same time, in a way, because we see the people who are now leading on the front lines of the revolution that's happening now.
It's always the youth. I think internationally, it's always the, you know, youth-led movements are the ones that generally are the most revolutionary, because they don't have the trappings of like a mortgage and, you know, all this and that and the third that they've acquired. Like they're pure in that way.
Yeah, and they have fresh vision for the future. What are the benefits of Black directors and creators telling Black stories, specifically when it comes to our history? Why is that so important?
The gaze is key. You know, like, who is this? One of the things I would constantly be asking myself when making decisions about scenes is, who is this movie for? Who is this scene for? Who is my audience? my primary audience. And, you know, I know for a fact that traditionally Hollywood has, so they have, there's a term used, the general audience, right? Mm-hmm. And the general audience, the sort of like specific thing they're talking about is, you know, every age range, but they really generally, when they say that, they mean white people. So most movies are made for white consumers and white consumption. And I think when you're making a movie like this film, you know, or One Night in Miami, you know, or The Five Bloods, you know, or Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, right? Like, I think that all of those writers and directors, they're coming from the place of, okay, I'm making this for, you know, my mom to watch, or my friends to watch, or, you know, they're seeing the people who look like them first when they see the audience. And that changes everything